For 500 years, humanity was little more than a rumor. Beaten, broken, enslaved beneath the boots of an empire that believed the species was finished. But beneath the silence of Luna's surface, something ancient had been waiting. Watching. Evolving. And now, the lie is over. What happens when the prey unveils teeth sharper than the predator ever imagined? This is the moment the galaxy learns what it means to underestimate the last survivors of Earth. Before we dive into this turning point in humanity's hidden war, make sure you're subscribed to Starland Studios. We bring you cinematic sci-fi stories with deep lore, emotional stakes, and unforgettable characters every week. The morning sky over Ashera Prime burned with a coppery haze, as if the planet itself was weeping rust. From the crackling port of Habitat Sector 9, Lyra Solon watched towering extraction ships drift downward through layers of industrial smoke, monolithic machines shaped like giant stingrays, their bellies glowing with furnace light. It was Cullen Day again, the time when the Zarkei Ascendancy chose who among the human workers would vanish forever into the gravity scars of Delta Virix, the mining moon no one returned from. 17 years had passed since Lyra was born into this ash-choked world, and by some strange grace or sheer cunning, she'd evaded the culling 5 times. Her grandmother used to say Lyra had the first flame in her veins, the spark of the settlers who'd first tamed the Shara before the Zark. I tore across the stars, burning civilizations like dry grass. But Lyra didn't believe in ancestral fire. She believed in shadows, escape hatches, and keeping her head down when the patrols came stomping through the corridors in gleaming armor. Lyra! The voice came sharp and urgent. Her brother Terran stormed in, breath ragged. They've got new bioscanners. They're sweeping the west lifts now. Their grandmother, Sarah Solon, didn't look up. She sat hunched over a brittle, ink-stained codex lit by a flickering filament lamp. 93 years old, Sarah was one of the last humans alive who could recall what life had felt like before surrender became survival. Her fingers moved gently over ancient symbols that no longer existed in any official archive, but which had once shaped Lyra's dreams. "It's begun," Sarah said. Just 2 words, but they landed with the gravity of prophecy. "The ships move tonight." Terran blinked. "Ships?" Lyra stepped forward, eyes narrowing. "What ships?" Sarah rose slowly and moved to a section of wall, indistinguishable from the others, until her hand pressed against it. With a hiss of depressurizing air, a hidden cache revealed itself, inside of which floated a shard of living crystal, glowing with a heartbeat rhythm. Lyra stepped back instinctively. This wasn't Zarkei tech. This was something else, sleek, fluid, like it had been grown rather than forged. "Your ancestor, Dr. Kalen Solon, led the Eclipse Vanguard, back when Earth still spoke freely," Sarah said quickly. "The records say he perished when the Zarkei arrived. That, too, was a lie." Thudding footsteps pounded the corridor. The inhuman rasp of the Zarkei tongue scraped through the vents. "He fled," Sarah said, pushing the crystal into Lyra's trembling hands. "He took 200 scientists, warriors, and builders, vanished into dark space aboard 3 hidden vessels. They waited 5 centuries in the Oort Vale, building in silence, hoping someone like you would rise. Someone who could light the flame again." "Gran, this is suicide," Terran whispered harshly, his voice cracking under fear. "If they catch us with outlaw tech—" "It's not alien," Sarah cut in, steel in her tone. "It's ours. The last echo of humanity before the stars turned cruel. And it's been hiding in plain sight just beyond their reach." She gestured toward the sky, where Varela, the moon, shimmered like a silver sentinel. "We buried it where monsters never think to look. Home." Before another word could pass, the front wall shattered inward in a hail of metal and fire. 3 Zarkei enforcers stepped through the smoke, towering and monstrous, 8 feet tall, with midnight armor that absorbed light. Their bodies were half insect, half machine, each boasting 4 serrated limbs and glimmering compound eyes like molten amber. The leader's throat unit clicked to life, translating its jagged voice. Illegal human tech detected. Initiate mental strip. Time fractured. Lyra watched as Terran dove for the plasma torch hidden in the floorboards. She saw Sarah plant herself like a wall between them. The Enforcer raised its neural spike. An extraction tool had erased memory, leaving behind only breathing husks. In her palm, the crystal pulsed. Then it burned. Without thinking, Lyra slammed it against the same wall panel her grandmother had opened. A blinding flare of blue-white surged outward. When her vision returned, the world was gone. Lyra blinked against the strange light. This wasn't the suffocating darkness of Sector 9. She stood now on the bridge of a vessel unlike anything in Zarkai design doctrine. There were no jagged edges or brutal metal plating. This ship felt symbiotic. Its walls rippled with faint, bioluminescent waves. The control arrays curved like living roots from the deck itself. You've arrived aboard the Etherean. A calm voice behind her spun Lyra around. The man standing there looked oddly familiar. Mid-40s, dark eyes, soft smile. He wore a uniform of deep cobalt with silver etchings that pulsed faintly and insignias that meant nothing to her, yet tugged at something buried in her memory. More impossibly, he was translucent, a living ghost made of light. "Kalen Solon?" she breathed. The hologram nodded. "A personality shard, built to awaken when our beacon finally recognized the living heir. The real Kalen passed on decades ago, but I carry his mind up to the moment we escaped Earth's fall." Blue light flared again, 2 columns. Terran and Sarah reappeared beside her, stunned but breathing. Sarah's hands trembled as she stared at the ghost of her grandfather. Her eyes welled with something deeper than memory, legacy. "You've done it," Kalen said gently. "You carried the fire forward, across centuries of silence. And now, the time has come to awaken the last hope of humankind." "Rebellion?" Lyra's voice cracked. "There was no rebellion. The Ascendancy crushed all resistance centuries ago." "Not all," Kalen said quietly. He turned toward the panoramic viewport, and with a gesture, the room dimmed. A display ignited in midair, rotating star charts, tactical overlays, and planetary diagrams, all focused on one shining orb, Old Earth. Crisscrossed with orbital harnesses and surrounded by dreadnought patrols, it looked more like a prisoner than a planet. Nearby, the moon drifted, unassuming and silent. The Etherean is one of 3 vessels that slipped past the blockade during the first wave, Kalen explained. For 5 centuries, we've been in the shadows, constructing weapons, gathering data, and waiting for a spark. That spark is you. Only someone of Earth-born descent can activate the relic cores hidden beneath Varela. Lyra's gaze locked on the moon. "What's even down there?" "The last stand of human genius," Kalen said. Titan-class defense satellites, able to rip battleships apart before they can blink. Autonomous ship foundries that can mass-produce entire fleets in weeks. But that's not all. Beneath the crust lies research far beyond what the Ascendancy ever imagined. Biology, weaponry, energy systems, technology that could have ended this war before it began, if only we'd had time to finish it. The display zoomed in on the moon's far side, revealing craters and dust plains empty to the untrained eye. But as Kalen swept his hand, markers blinked to life. 37 sites, each hidden beneath kilometers of rock, shielded by cloaking systems that still held strong. "The Ascendancy has walked these plains for centuries," he said. "They never once realized they stood atop humanity's true inheritance." Terran stepped forward, eyes narrowed. "Then why wait until now? Why bring us into this today?" Kalen's expression darkened. "Because they've stopped pretending." The projection shifted again. This time, it showed internal Ascendancy transmissions, coded intercepts, decrypted charts, and one chilling term, extinction protocol. In 6 cycles, Kalen said, the Ascendancy plans to terminate every human remaining in their domains. No more forced labor. No more breeding colonies. They're replacing us with synthetic organisms engineered to obey without question. Our time is up. The silence on the bridge was suffocating. Lyra's thoughts spun. Every name she'd ever known, every face, every rooftop, every whispered joke in the alleyways of Sector 9. Gone. 6 months from now, humanity wouldn't be enslaved. It would be erased. But, Kalen said, his voice shifting like steel drawn from a scabbard, they've made a single, catastrophic mistake. They think they're still dealing with the broken remnants of 21st century Earth. They don't understand what we've become. The holograms changed once more. Lyra blinked. What she saw made no sense. Machines that pulsed like muscle, armor that shimmered with organic light, ships shaped like birds of prey wrapped in plasma. And standing at their center, humanoid warriors ringed in flowing energy fields, as if the universe itself bowed to their presence. We call them the Ascendants, Kalen said, voice low with reverence. Humans who've crossed the boundaries of biology and circuitry, enhanced in mind, body, and reflexes, elevated to the peak of what our species can be. They've been inside Ascendancy space for years now. Spies, saboteurs, seeds of the coming storm. Sarah's voice was almost a whisper. How many? Between the 3 ARC ships? Roughly 800 battle-ready operatives, Kalen answered. Alongside their engineers, tacticians, and medical corps. Not enough to challenge the Ascendancy head-on, but enough to unlock the old moon vaults. Enough to build an army. Lyra swallowed. You need us to get you there. The defense grid hidden under Varella's crust was locked behind ancient gen keys, sequences passed down through the original scientists who built it. Your bloodline holds that code, Lyra. Without you, all our preparation dies stillborn. She looked at her brother, still pale with shock. At her grandmother, who had carried this impossible burden for a lifetime. At her own trembling hands, still shaking from the escape. What they were being asked to do felt like myth made flesh. What about the people down there, she asked. The camps, the factories, the settlements. There are billions of us still on Earth. If we light the forge, Kalen said, they'll have hope. But if we fail, then 6 months from now, there won't be a single human left alive. The Ascendancy's purge orders are signed. They're done using us. They're replacing us. The truth hit like a gravitational punch. Lyra turned back toward the viewport. Earth spun slowly beyond the glass, its oceans dulled, continents scorched by centuries of exploitation. In District 9, the enforcers were likely still hunting ghosts, dragging innocent families from their homes, trying to erase the Solans from existence. Unless she could give them something far more terrifying to chase. Then show me, she said quietly. Show me the ship. Chapter 3. The Rise of the Etherean. The walk through the Etherean lasted 3 hours. By the end of it, Lyra felt as though she had stepped into a future humanity was never meant to see. The vessel stretched for nearly 2 kilometers, yet felt strangely personal. Its halls were alive with color and light. Walls pulsed with a soothing glow, and the very air vibrated with a soft hum, as though the ship was breathing. The structure isn't assembled, said Commander Illyra Vale, the flesh-and-blood captain who'd taken the reins after Kalen's death. She looked barely 30, but Kalen had mentioned she was over 150 and ascended like the rest. It's grown. Grown? Terran asked, trailing his fingers along a wall that flexed slightly under his touch. Organic alloy composite, Alloy explained. It heals, evolves, adapts to hostile environments. While the Ascendancy welds together lifeless machines, we cultivate ships with nervous systems and instincts. That's the difference. We don't pilot tools, we ride living legends. They drifted through the heart of the Etherean, entering a place that felt more like an enchanted greenhouse than a military vessel. Under luminous suns that orbited on silent gyros, vibrant plant life reached skyward, orchids from the Andes, citrus trees with golden veins, vines with petals that shimmered like starlight. Lyra had only seen such things in pixelated archive footage, relics of a pre-conquest Earth. But here, they bloomed in abundance. The garden served multiple functions, Commander Vale said as she moved between rows of cultivated wonder. Sustenance, yes, but also memory. These are living vaults, preserved genomes from every Earth species we could smuggle out before the fall. When the time comes, there'll be the seeds to heal a broken planet. The scent in the air made Lyra dizzy, loamy, rich, green in a way that Ashara's toxic winds had never allowed. Then came the engineering decks, less serene, but far more alien. There, Lyra witnessed crew members moving like choreography. Some had extra limbs ending in precision tools, others blinked with radiant ocular implants. Interfaces lit up at their touch, responding not just to fingers but to thoughts. The entire room thrummed with the rhythm of a species that had refused to die quietly. They're augmented, Vale noted, seeing Lyra's wide eyes. Every enhancement is a choice. Every change an evolution. But they're still human, just evolved for purpose. Purpose, Lyra echoed. Purpose for what? Vale looked her dead in the eye. For surviving a war the rest of the galaxy already decided we lost. Then came the arsenal chamber. Lyra hadn't expected beauty. But that's what she saw, terrible, radiant beauty. Rows of weapons that pulsed like they were alive. Some looked like they were carved from frozen electricity. Others shimmered in and out of visibility as if the laws of physics weren't welcome here. These are pulse phase disruptors, Vale gestured. They target molecular cohesion, dissolve conventional armor like butter in flame. The Vorn don't understand quantum destabilization. Their science never reached that far. Sarah's gaze caught on a set of silver pods arranged like an altar of iron petals. And these? She asked quietly. Genetic virals. Nano-weapons keyed to Zarkai DNA. They'll leave our people untouched while there's collapse from the inside out. Lyra stepped back. A chill rippled down her spine. That's not war, she said. That's extinction. Vale didn't flinch. They've signed off on the erasure of our species. This isn't genocide. It's our answer to theirs. Her words echoed, cold and steel-bound. Finally, they reached the biomedical sanctum, a place where science bordered on magic. Suspended tanks mended shattered limbs, while neural crowns stitched minds to machines in seconds. But most breathtaking were the ascendant chambers, where baseline humans underwent transformation, reprogramming their cells, rewriting the body's destiny. Not to become something else, but to become the best version of what humanity could be. The future, Lyra realized, wasn't coming. It had been waiting, in silence, in shadow, for her. The transformation takes about 6 weeks, Commander Vale explained, her voice a low hum as they observed a technician floating inside a glass cocoon. The woman drifted in a vat of shimmering silver fluid, her body haloed by microdrones weaving through the liquid like swarms of fireflies. Inside her veins, DNA was being rewritten strand by strand, rewired to become something more. Strength, reflexes, cognitive speed, enhanced sensory grids, memory recall, stress resistance, Vale continued. And then come the tailored enhancements depending on your deployment. Terran's voice was barely audible. Does it hurt? Vale didn't hesitate. Evolution always hurts. But so does helplessness. Their journey ended atop the observation crown, a panoramic dome constructed of ultra-transparent flexalloy. Beyond the curved windows, space stretched out in infinite silence. Earth hung before them like a wounded jewel, veins of cloud winding over scarred land. Beside it floated Varela, patient and pale, still guarding secrets beneath its cratered surface. The other Warships, Helion and Nadir, are cloaked on Varela's dark side, Vale said, pointing toward what appeared to Lara's unmodified eyes as empty void. Their fusion signatures are hidden in the moon's magnetic echo. Between the three of us, we could break a planet in half if we wanted to. Lyra frowned. But that's not the mission, is it? No, Vale replied. This isn't vengeance. It's resurrection. We're here to awaken what sleeps beneath Varela, to forge a fleet, rearm humanity, and take back what we lost. But first, you need to reach the surface. Beside them, Kalen's projection flickered into view. Which brings us to the difficult part, he said. Varela is under constant surveillance. Any unauthorized landing will be vaporized before it ever kisses the dust. Lyra's stomach nodded. So what's the plan? Vale's lips curled into a sharp, unsettling smile. We don't send a ship. We send you. Chapter 4, Into the Dark. It was a sleek, oval shell, barely larger than a coffin, layered in stealth polymers and signal-dampening alloys. Inside, she was surrounded by impact gel, pressure seals, and the cold, quiet hum of life support. Kalen's voice echoed through the comms. The vaults are autonomous, but dormant. They'll need time to scan your DNA, authenticate your ancestry, and reinitialize core functions. How long is time? Lyra asked, voice tight. Could be 2 minutes. Could be 10, Vale responded. You'll land in a suit. Alone. On the far side. No backup. No signal flares. Just silence and stone. The pod's heat shield will vanish into the background noise, Kalen added. And Varela's rotation gives you a 6-hour blind window. After that, the Ascendancy sees everything. 6 hours to activate forgotten machines built by ancestors she'd never known. To speak to systems designed by minds centuries ahead of hers. To stand, terrified, on lunar soil with the future of humanity pulsing in her veins. And somehow, not freeze. Lyra wondered if her ancestor had felt the same fear the day he fled a dying Earth, or if he'd simply accepted the weight of history and stepped forward anyway. They'll stay aboard the Etherean? Lyra asked, her voice tight as the launch team locked down her pod. Secure in medbay, Vale confirmed. If something goes wrong, your grandmother and brother carry alternate gene threads. We try again, with them. The insertion chamber sealed with a hiss and a sequence of heavy, final-sounding clunks. Lyra's pod, smooth and metallic, no larger than a cryo capsule, was locked into a sleek launch rail. Through the porthole, she saw the bay bathed in scarlet lighting. Warning strobes pulsed like a heartbeat, loud, fast, relentless. Launch in 30 seconds, Vale said over comms. Lyra, you're about to become legend. Or cautionary tale, Lyra muttered. Vale's tone didn't waver. Both, possibly. 20 seconds. The countdown fractured time. Every second stretched, then snapped forward without warning. At 0, the rail ignited. The pod screamed out of the Etherean like a railgun slug, velocity pressing her spine into the cushioning with brutal force. The impact gel absorbed the worst of it, but she still saw stars behind her eyes. And then, silence. 4 hours of motionless drift followed, and she coasted through the cold vacuum, wrapped in stillness. Varela grew larger in the viewport, its surface harsh, ancient, and colorless, like a scar the stars had forgotten. Lyra's trajectory would swing her behind the moon, where darkness lingered in craters that hadn't tasted sunlight in 4 billion years. Somewhere beneath that ancient crust, Earth's last secret waited. The pod's retros fired automatically on approach. The burn shook the capsule like a shuddering breath. She hit the lunar soil hard enough to bite her tongue, but she was intact, conscious, breathing. With a hiss of equalizing pressure, the hatch unsealed. The moon greeted her with silence and starlight. Gray powder blanketed jagged stone in every direction, shimmering faintly under the void's eternal gaze. Above her, Earth floated like a marble suspended in eternity, beautiful, distant, untouchable. She triggered her suit's motion assist and began the slow walk toward the beacon site. Each step left a perfect print in the untouched regolith. According to her HUD, she was crossing what had once been Apollo 17's landing zone, though time and meteorites had long since wiped it clean. Her destination? Nothing more than a faint discoloration, just a smudge of rock amid a million others. Lyra knelt and pressed her gloved hand to the surface. Nothing happened. She pressed harder, waited longer. Still nothing. Her heart began to pound. 500 years of faith, of planning, of sacrifice. Was it all going to die here in the dust? Then the moon moved. With a low rumble, a circular section of terrain slid away, revealing a shaft that plunged downward. Lights flickered to life along the walls, golden and soft. And for the first time in her life, Lyra felt weight. Not her own, but the pull of an artificial gravity field embracing her. The past was no longer buried. It had awakened. "Solace," she whispered into the comm link embedded in her suit. "I've made it inside." Only silence responded. The subterranean shielding cut all transmissions like a blade. No signals were getting in or out. Lyra was alone now. The shaft she stood in plunged deep into the moon's core, a descent so long it seemed to defy the planet's dimensions. When it finally opened, what awaited her made her breath hitch. A chamber? No, a subterranean city. Vaulted ceilings rose hundreds of meters above, crisscrossed with glowing conduits and floating pathways. The floor beneath her hummed to life with quiet energy, and soft blue lights blinked on in cascading waves. Machines, dormant for centuries, were waking. "Welcome, Dr. Lyra Voss," said a voice, mechanical yet strangely warm, resonating from every direction. "I'm Or, primary synthetic overseer of Lunar Bastion Arc 1. Proceed to Central Command for mission retrieval and core protocols." She followed the lit path, passing through corridors that gleamed with alloys she didn't recognize. Walls pulsed with silent data, star systems mapped in rotating spirals, alien movement patterns plotted in real time, and weapon schematics that looked more like nightmares than technology. This place wasn't just a vault. It was a war engine, dormant and waiting. The command core lay at the center of a spherical control chamber, its catwalks and command platforms hovering in the air as if gravity had been rewritten. At its heart floated a holographic sphere, Earth, wrapped in orbiting dots. Countless ships. Vorthan vessels drifting in layered formation, their paths constantly updating. As she stepped onto the central ring, Ore's voice returned. "System status, Arc 1 operational. Constructive matrix running at 97.4% capacity. Orbital defense lattice armed and on standby." "What is this?" Lyra asked, nearly whispering. "This facility," Ore said, "is the Strategic Core Operation Phoenix, humanity's fallback response in the face of irreversible collapse. Arc 1 is one of 12 buried installations designed for autonomous fleet construction, weapons research, personnel training, and planetary defense coordination." The projection zoomed in on the lunar surface. Hidden beneath the dust and craters, dozens of geometric icons lit up, each one a secret bunker, a reactor, a factory, a cloning hub, or something stranger. Together, they formed a neural network spread across the moon's entire dark hemisphere, an invisible civilization, sleeping, waiting. Lyra felt the scale of it in her bones. How long has this been buried? Construction initiated in Earth year 2157, Aura replied. Anticipating hostile contact, planners initiated Phoenix based on a simple projection that any spacefaring species would wield superior force. Humanity's response was not to match it, but to endure until the tide could be turned. Beneath her feet, 1,000 forges began to glow. You've waited here. All this time? Arc 1 has remained in continuous operation for 5 centuries, its research algorithms evolving independently. Via quantum-linked observatories beyond Dominion space, our technological growth has not ceased, only gone unseen. The projection shifted again. Now it displayed vessels the size of cities, engines burning with exotic radiation, weapons that could fracture moons, fields that twisted gravity like origami, and human schematics redrawn into forms both terrifying and beautiful. Or, Lyra murmured, what exactly do you expect me to do? You are the genetic key to trigger Phase 3 of Operation Phoenix, full mobilization, fleet deployment, and initiation of the liberation sequence. However, a strategic anomaly has emerged. She tensed. Define anomaly. Dominion sensors intercepted your pod's launch signature. They are en route. Estimated arrival, 47 minutes. Ice threaded down her spine. Composition? 12 Dreadnought-class warships. 36 escort destroyers. 200 auxiliary units. Total life forms aboard, approximately 51,000. Lyra stared at the tactical feed. The red markers were advancing fast, already halfway across cislunar space. Even with Arc 1's advantages, this was no skirmish, it was a siege. What are my options? Option 1. Activate surface defenses and engage upon arrival. Probability of success, 37%. Risk. Total destruction of facility and compromise of all continuity protocols. She clenched her jaw. And the second? Probability of success, 61%. Risk? Global extinction should deployment fail. Lyra inhaled slowly, grounding herself against the weight of it. 47 minutes. A choice between immediate ruin or high stakes resurrection. Either way, there would be no second attempt. How long to build a viable fleet? With current throughput, Arc 1 can fabricate 120 Leviathan-class warships within 6 Earth hours. Each is designed to counteract multiple Dominion dreadnoughts. Atmospheric deployment can begin within the first hour. And the new weapons? Quantum rift accelerators, gene-targeted nanophages, time-phase ordnance, graviton spines. Every prototype exceeds Dominion defensive capacity by several magnitudes. Her gaze drifted to the viewport, where Earth floated, blue, cloud-wrapped, and occupied. Entire continents blinked with Dominion installations. Cities now served as labor hubs. Orbit was dense with alien scaffolding. Below that sky, billions of humans still lived. Some free, some enslaved, all unaware that salvation or catastrophe was now measured in minutes. Can we guarantee civilian safety? She asked quietly. No, but civilian extinction is already projected within 1 orbital cycle. Action delays will only worsen the probability curve. Lyra touched the command ring at the center of the console. It was warm beneath her fingers, keyed to her DNA. 44 minutes left. She could feel the weight of history pressing against her skin. All right, Aura, she said, voice steady. Wake the forges. Bring the weapons online. Project Phoenix is a go. And somewhere beneath the moon's crust, the machines began to roar. Show me the outcome if we go all in, she said. The air shimmered as a high-fidelity combat simulation expanded before her. Dozens of launch bays split open across the moon's crust. Hundreds of human warships surged outward, engaging Dominion vessels in a coordinated blitz. The battle was fast, merciless. Human engineering cut through enemy formations like fire through dry grass. Within hours, the sky above Earth was Dominion-free for the first time in 5 centuries. But beneath the victory, she saw the toll. Civilian casualties in the millions. Urban centers vaporized by orbital fire. The cost of liberation etched itself into her chest like a blade. "Aura," she said slowly, "is there a third path? Clarify parameters, something that proves we're not prey anymore, without triggering a full-scale extermination." The AI paused. Not for milliseconds, but full seconds. For Aura, that was nearly an eternity. Scenario detected. We initiate partial grid activation. Repel incoming force. Demonstrate capability. Broadcast intent to negotiate. Negotiate? Her voice sharpened. The Dominion prefers assimilation to annihilation if resistance is credible. A sufficiently advanced display may force them to consider diplomacy over prolonged conflict. She thought of Halifax's voice back on the Prometheus, coldly describing weapons that targeted Vortak biology with surgical precision. Thought of the fire in his eyes when he said, "Justice." Thought of the survivors on Earth, their backs bent in alien factories, their voices long silenced. "Children live on those ships," she said quietly. "Our own, press-ganged into labor." "Yes," ORA replied. "Roughly 1 in 6 crew members are human captives. Casualties in total engagement would be high on both sides. Time remaining? 32 minutes until first contact." The tactical feed updated again. Red symbols pulsed closer. She could almost feel their engines vibrating through the moon's crust. Somewhere inside those vessels were creatures that had enslaved her ancestors and slaughtered her great-grandfather's generation. But they weren't alone. Somewhere inside were the innocent too, humans who hadn't chosen this. "Prepare Scenario 3, she said. "Defensive grid only. No warships, no strikes, just enough to let them know we're awake." "Understood. Authorization required. Please place your hand on the genetic interface." Her hand hovered above the sensor. 500 years of silence, of suffering, of dormant vengeance buried in lunar stone, the culmination of generations who had only dreamed of freedom and one descendant who could reach out and seize it. She exhaled, then placed her palm down. A pulse echoed through the floor. The chamber's light surged. Far below, ancient reactors roared back to life. Defensive satellites emerged from hidden craters like watching eyes. Rail turrets rose from dust-covered silos. The moon, quiet for half a millennium, began to bristle with teeth. The Dominion was coming. Now they'd see the truth. Humanity hadn't died. It had evolved. The moon woke with silent fury. Panels of dust-covered regoliths slid aside in synchronized precision, revealing the hidden weapons of a long-dead civilization reborn. Turrets unfurled like steel petals, rising from the shadows of ancient craters. Missile silos yawned open. Latticework sensor towers blossomed across the lunar surface, their crystalline faces catching starlight and refracting it into prismatic bursts that stung the eyes. Defensive grid activation at 70%, Artemis reported. 48 primary emplacements online. Planetary shield generators charging. Estimated time to full capacity, 4 minutes, 17 seconds. Kira stood motionless, eyes fixed on the displays. The Dominion fleet moved like a school of predators, slipping into bombardment formation with cold efficiency. Vortak heavy cruisers loomed at the center, monolithic beasts designed for planetary sterilization. One of them alone could shatter a moon's crust. 12 moved in concert. Incoming transmission from Dominion Battle Group Gamma, Artemis announced. Audio only. A guttural voice crackled through the chamber. The AI translated it into crisp, unfeeling English, unidentified structure, you occupy restricted Dominion territory. Surrender or face obliteration. Kira turned to Artemis. Can they see what we've got? Negative. Weapons remain concealed. However, they've registered power signatures. They know we're not dead. Kira tapped the comm console. Dominion Fleet, this is Luna Installation Alpha 1. You are trespassing on sovereign military ground. Withdraw immediately. Seconds passed. Then the voice returned, smug, oily with condescension. Human relic confirmed. Commencing extermination protocol. You have chosen extinction. Red markers on the display surged forward. 12 cruisers and their escorts accelerating toward the moon. Kira felt her breath catch as energy readings spiked. Exotic matter cannons, fusion torpedoes, gravitic shear weapons, all arming for planetary assault. They're not bluffing, she said. No, Artemis replied. The Vordak have not treated with a lesser species in 2 millennia. This response is consistent. Do we open fire? Awaiting your command? Her hand hovered over the control interface. One press and the veil would fall. Luna's secret would be revealed. The war would begin. She didn't move. Wait, Kira said. Let them come closer. Let them think they've already won. The red icons fanned out, descending into strike positions. Their sensors swept across the barren terrain, oblivious to the hidden eyes tracking their every move. Beneath the surface, weapon systems adjusted. Targeting matrices hummed to life. 2 minutes to weapons range, Artemis intoned. Kira's voice was steady, low. Can you target engines and weapon systems only? Disable. Don't destroy. Precision targeting confirmed. And the humans aboard? All Dominion vessels carry enslaved human laborers. Estimated collateral casualties from total vessel destruction, 4,300. Kira closed her eyes. Every option cut flesh. Every decision spilled blood. And still, she had to choose. 90 seconds to impact range. The enemy formation had closed the distance. Kira could now make out the contours of individual warships on the tactical display, sleek, jagged silhouettes outlined in red. The lead vessel, an obsidian behemoth, bore the scars of 100 planetary sieges, gouges from plasma strikes, pockmarks from railgun rounds, the echoes of dying worlds etched into its hull. How many lives had that ship extinguished? How many human cities had crumbled beneath its shadow? 60 seconds. Primary Dominion weapons charging, Artemis stated. Kira's jaw clenched. Prep precision fire. Target propulsion arrays and weapon banks only. Contain the threat. Don't annihilate it. Solution plotted. Systems on standby. 30 seconds. She imagined the Vortak commander smirking, already savoring another easy purge. They believed they were descending on a forgotten ruin, a relic. They were wrong. 10 seconds. Her hand moved without hesitation. Authorization granted. What followed was not a battle. It was revelation. The moon erupted in orchestrated violence. Dozens of turrets breached the regolith, rotating with eerie synchronicity. Energy lances, impossibly bright and heartbreakingly sharp, cleaved across space like celestial blades. They struck without warning or mercy. Focused beams of raw science peeling apart armor and severing power cores. One by one, the Dominion cruisers faltered, blinded, crippled, disarmed. Engines sputtered and went black. Cannons exploded inward, reduced to vapor by molecular disintegration. But no ships were destroyed. No lives extinguished. Hits confirmed across all designated systems, Artemis announced. Fleet disabled. 0 vessel loss. Minimal human casualties. Then, predictably, panic set in. The surviving Dominion gunners fired in blind retaliation. From every undamaged barrel came a deluge: plasma bolts, gravitic warheads, antimatter streams. The moon's horizon ignited, lit not by sunrise, but by war. A spectacle of destruction meant to erase every trace of defiance. And yet, nothing reached them. Planetary shielding engaged, Artemis explained calmly. Energy absorption at 97%. Enemy ordnance now powering core systems. Kira blinked. They're charging our defenses by attacking us? Correct. She stared at the screen as volley after volley vanished mid-flight, swallowed by invisible fields, neutralized before they could touch lunar soil. The Vortex ships hung in space, weapons drained, defenses shattered. And now they understood. For the first time in 5 centuries, the hunters had become the prey. Unsecured signal incoming, Artemis intoned. The voice that spilled through the command center was raw and shaken, laced with both fury and confusion. No longer the arrogance of a conqueror, this was something else. Something fractured. The next words out of her mouth would echo far beyond this moment. They would define the course of humanity's return. She drew a breath, steady and full of history. "We're the descendants of Earth," she said, "and your chains don't fit us anymore." Lies. Human technology is garbage. Tribal. Crude. What you just did is impossible. Kira let her fury sharpen her words. "You spent centuries babysitting a decoy species," she said. "While your dominion paraded around in triumph, the true legacy of our people hid beneath your radar, learning your weaknesses, mastering sciences you can't even name. You didn't crush us. You blinded yourselves." The alien commander hissed something unintelligible, then barked a translation to clenched syllables. "We will summon the greater fleet. You think this little trick of yours can hold back the tide? The Dominion will erase you." Kira leaned closer to the console, her voice ice and iron. "Try it. Summon the galaxy if you want. But remember this, Luna is a single tooth in a very large maw. There are others. Hidden. Waiting. If you force our hand, you'll wake the whole beast. And what you saw today, that was us being merciful." Silence dropped over the channel like a shroud. On the tactical map, the Vortex warships drifted, powerless, flickering, ancient engines idle. Their soldiers, bred for dominance, were now staring down the consequences of 500 years of stolen time. Kira watched, unspeaking. For once, the galaxy would listen. If this moment gave you chills, imagine what comes next. Subscribe to Starland Studios and join the resistance, because the war for humanity's future has only just begun.